Good morning, everyone. Hope you're having a beautiful day. And I welcome you to our active creative circle, which happens every Saturday. So today we're doing a beautiful practice of sacred geometry, seed of life. So I'm very grateful you're here and choosing to step into this space today. This session is going to be recorded, so you're welcome to return at any time, and you can come back to this practice whenever you feel that you need grounding, clarity, reconnection, whenever you feel this is the time for you to explore. So before we begin, just a gentle reminder that you don't need to know sacred geometry. You don't need to understand the math. You don't need to know how to draw. All you need is your presence and willingness to explore. So what is happening today, I would like you to make sure that you have paper. Any type of paper is good, but we're using A3. And that would be the ideal size so you can explore further. And then you would need a compass. If you don't have a compass, what is important to know that if you don't have a compass, you can always use any round objects that you have. And then pencil, ruler, and any color materials that you have. You can use pencils. You can use watercolors, which is my preferred for this practice, and markers. I don't recommend oil pastels. So let's begin and let's start what is sacred geometry and what it's not. Sacred geometry is often presented as something very complex, mathematical, intellectual, and many people believe that they need to know geometry, they need to understand math, they need to know how to draw. They go back into their geometry classes and they feel it's complicated and multidimensional. So today we are gently breaking those patterns, and I invite you to see geometry as a language, not a subject. Before we had any words, before we had written language, we always communicated through symbols, forms, rhythm, and pattern. And words are powerful, but they're also limiting. They frame reality in a way that the mind can understand, but they don't always allow us to perceive what exists beyond language. Art becomes a way to enter perception beyond words. And through practices that we're going to do today, and you start to communicate non-verbally through the body, through sensation, and through experience. And we receive information first through the embodiment, through our eyes, and only later our cognitive translation comes in. And I like to say that sacred geometry acts like QR code for remembering who you really are, activating the memory, the ancestral past memories that already exist within us. And sacred geometry is the study and experience of the universal pattern, the blueprint, the underline of all the creation. And these patterns appear everywhere. If you look at the nature, in flowers, in art, in music through the waveforms, in human body itself, through the cells, it's all geometry, bypasses the limitation that we have. And through drawing and repetition and pattern, we enter that non-verbal field of knowing. And the body starts expanding before your mind does. And insight arrives through sensations. And that's why sacred geometry works so powerfully when practiced through art-based embodiment methods rather than just intellectual study alone. And drawing circles, intersection, repeating motifs, such as what we're going to do today. So it's it stabilizes your attention, it helps you focus, it helps you ground. And what is most important is the pattern recognition. Sacred geometry helps the body feel the pattern before the mind explanation. And most people believe they're reacting to life as it happens, and that their emotions are responses, that their choices are deliberate, that their struggles are simply the natural difficulty of being a human. But beneath all of that lies something far more structured than it appears. And the structure comes from these patterns. Your life is built on patterns, patterns of thoughts, patterns of beliefs, patterns of emotion and reaction, behavior, and pattern that nervous system responses formed since you were born, since your childhood, through family dynamics, through cultural recognition, through the way you survived and adapted and found a way to repeat that emotion. And that's how the pattern is born within you. Repeated emotional experience create the pattern. And over time, they become so familiar that feel like a reality. And that becomes your truth. And that becomes your belief system, that becomes your life. And you feel just, this is the way I am. But if you look in everything that you react to, everything that comes to your life, there's always a pattern. So what sacred geometry does, it actually helps you to start seeing your life as a pattern. And it's not like you're going to draw sacred geometry and you start seeing the pattern in your life. It works as a training mechanism for your brain. So cognitively, our brain doesn't understand the difference between the image that you created or real experience. It understands there's a pattern that goes around and you recreate it. And as more sacred geometry that you practice, the more you start recognizing these patterns in your life. Not because you're drawing sacred geometry, but your brain becomes trained on noticing the patterns. And I'm talking from experience of creating sacred geometry for the last 30 years and drawing it and understanding how my brain has been wired to see and reflect on the patterns. And that's what helps me so much in the practice that I do. So today, I also want to talk about different sacred geometry forms, and they work differently. So we are doing the seed of life, and seed of life is a portal of safety, a region, and is a container, and it often supports the returning to the center, reconnecting with yourself and remembering who you are. There's also patterns like flower of life, which is beginning and belonging in wholeness. And then there's Vesica Pisces. There's a platonic solids that is part of sacred geometry, and Metatron's cube is structural clarity and boundaries and creating the universe. And there's a mandala and spiral. So there's the ways to use sacred geometry for different purposes. So today we're doing the seed of life. It is the beginning of creation. It is one of the most fundamental patterns in sacred geometry. It is formed by overlapping circles, and it's very simple, and it has that simple flow. When you just start to see how the creation is born, you can see the emergence of unity, of wholeness, and that structure creates a lot of grounding experience in your nervous system, in your regulation. So this is why we begin with the seed of life, because at the moment with what's happening astrologically, there's a lot of fire energy, there's a lot of action, there's a lot of news coming in, there's a lot of emotional reaction. And by grounding rather than feel overwhelmed, simple and profound way to come back to yourself, remember who you are, regulate your nervous system, soften your mind, and activate your intuition. And that's from there. It is a very meditative process. So we'll start with the first point that represents your existence, and then the circles become your container. So let's start with the practice, and we always start with the grounding of the body. So I want to start today with a little bit of connecting to your body. So if you can just create these motions on your collarbones and just move that fluid to start the process with your body, just sensing, and just there's no need to push, just a gentle circling around your collarbones and connecting to your breath. So gently start noticing your breath, breathing in, breathing out, and then we move to at the back of your neck, moving the fluid down without pushing too hard, just a gentle movement of letting the fluid go, connecting to your lymphatic system, and continue with your breath, breathing in. So the motion is very simple. So you go behind your ear and just move along the neck and gently pushing this fluid to circulate and connecting to your breath by doing that. Breathing in, breathing out, and you could feel there's some lightness sensation in your body. And then we do our chin, so you can do like simple movement across your face just to let the fluid flow. And then we'll rub our hands, feeling the heat, and then closing our eyes and just focusing on the breath. Breathe in, breathe out. Feeling the sensation in your body. Feel that your body is supported where you're sitting. And now silently set an intention. What it is for you that you want to explore today. It must be simple, like holding. Allow yourself whatever needs to come through to come. Just being grateful for finding time for yourself. Whatever it is, just set an intention and entering the field of creation. So what we're going to do now, I would like you to bring all your materials. So you have the ruler, you have a pencil, and what we're going to do, if you don't have a compass, you can use any round objects that you have. As an example, you can use, if you have a smaller paper, you can use any cap from the bottle, that always works, or a little cup, a little bowl, a little cup, that just will create a circle. So that's how sacred geometry is not something that you need these special materials, but I am going to use the compass today. And first of all, what I want you to just find the center of your page, thinking what is the center for you. So this is roughly on A3, this is roughly 15 centimeters. Just find that center. Where does it sit for you? Center of the page, just point it and feel connected to the center. This is a single point that represents you, your existence, your awareness, your beginning. This is where you started. This is where you're going. This is how you explore. So using the compass or a rounded, any round object. So today I'm gonna use about 4 centimeters setting. So 4 centimeters, that would make an 8 centimeters circle. So by placing the compass, or if you just have a round object in the center, and creating that first container using the compass, and the circle can be seen as your world, as your container, as your safety field. Just connecting to that little world that you live, that center of you that you hold, and create this first circle for yourself, where you're currently holding everything together. So as you've created this, as we all have north, south, west and east, we have a 4 points. So you can put a ruler in the middle and point those directions for yourself, your navigation, the system where space and time exist, where you belong between that space and time. So that's your north, south, west, and east. And going from the top, as the way that our clock works, the way that we circulate, going into that motion, we're starting from the top and moving clockwise around the circle, starting from our north and then moving into our across the world, across the timeline, expanding outward from the edge of the circle that you are. We starting creating the same size circle around you, and you could see how every circle that you create always touches the center of you, which is here. And as you go around, it expands your world into 4 different directions, into 4 different systems of existence, which is our traditional way of navigating. So we have the 4 directions, we have 4 elements that hold us on the planet. We have time and space as our navigation. So this is the first way of positioning your container, positioning your worldview into existence. So as we expanded ourselves into that navigation, what we're doing now is connecting the intersection that has been created. And again, we start from the top and we move around, and we start from the positioning of this first intersection, and we create 1, 2, 3, And this is the process where you start recognizing the rhythm and the patterns, and that's where the meditative process begins. You start going around and enjoying the process of just repetitive pattern, navigating through this new blueprint that is being created by you. You are the creator of it. You are the one who sees and connects to this blueprint within it. And just think of it as there's no need to be perfect. All you need to do is to go around in motions. And expand your world. And I'll put it closer so you could see this is where we come to. So this is your center. That is your north. And as you go around as a time clock way, you connect all these intersections with a circle, and you have your beautiful container created that is simple, that is easy, that holds you. To finish it off today, I would like to create a bigger container, and that would make me feel safe to expand to that limitation that I have into this expansion. If you want, you can always go across whatever you feel today. If you feel like you want to go beyond and expand further, today we're focusing on the grounding, so I will create this stabilization container that holds this expansion to where I want to focus today, and I create a bigger circle around just to closing this flower that has been created. So just like that. So this is our blueprint with recognition of all the patterns within. So at this moment, when the seed of life is complete, we begin the activation, because the life is not always patterns. It's what the container of that patterns is filled with. Let the color be intuitive. There's no symbolism you need to follow. Color is your activation, is what brings the pattern from structure into life. You know, you can have a lot of spreadsheets, a lot of frameworks, but unless you start experiencing it through your body, you feel alive. It moves from the blueprint, from the framework, into living experience, and that's what we're here for. We're not just here to follow the patterns that's been laid on us, the frameworks that we've created, the blueprint. We're here to experience it, and in your hands is how you want to experience it, how you want to color it, what feels alive for you today, what feels grounding for you today, and what feels expansive. This is where insight often arrives, not through thinking, but through feeling. So we are starting with the coloring. So please go ahead, find the tools that you feel that you want to explore today. If for me, I am using the watercolors. So what color does feel grounding for me? Feels certain and feels calm. So just connect to that and see what colors comes up for you. So for me, for some reason, it is gold. I actually do have a gold paint in here, which I can add today. So for me, the gold represents the inner wisdom, the side of us that was beyond our perception, the side of us that we have actually want to remember, but then bring it into life. So for me, the gold is something that we're all made of, but then we forget and we go into believing different frameworks. So this is what is going to be the core for me today. I'm going to use that bit of gold color, which was mixed with yellow. And I'm going to start. So we're starting where we feel comfortable. If you look at your image and you find what is most outstanding for you today, when you look at your patterns, do you see the petals? Do you see any other shapes that you want to color? It is completely fully in your capacity intuitively to be guided of where do you want to start your journey. And there's no mistakes, there's no rules of how to color. Whatever feels more vibrant, more important for you to start with, this is where you start. So for me today, I feel like going into the petals of the flower, and even they're all joined. For me, it holds the unity of being interconnected, being safe in my existence. So just connect to what feels grounding for you today. Again, we don't need to create a perfect artwork. We're not here to actually create an artwork. We're here for the process, for the enjoyment of being in the process of repetitive connection. Think of it as an exercise for your mind, an exercise for your soul, where you switch off your perfectionism, you switch off your judgments. There's nothing to be fixed, there's nothing to achieve. It's all for the process. And if you feel uncomfortable with the process, this is the point of growth. This is the point where you start allowing yourself to release that uncomfortable feeling of not achieving something. So I have created my inner core, my stability, what feels grounding for me today. And it looks like a golden, like petals, flower, and connecting to that first stage. Just see where you are today, what feels grounding, what color feels grounding, what shape comes up for you today that feels that need to come through. Again, please, no judgment for yourself. This is where we focus on connection with your feeling. How do you feel? How does it come up for you? So, starting with the petals. Again, for me, there's a lot of feminine side that comes up that is important for me. So that's why it could be petals. For someone else, it could be completely different shapes that has nothing to do with the flower. Very personal. As I do this practice with you, you follow your own guidance. So then what feels right for me is to create this container for this flower. And I'm using this red blood-like color. So with that exercise, the most important, as you're filling up, just notice how does it feel for you. It is a meditative process that connects you to your remembering of yourself, connecting that everything within us is sacred, everything outside of us is sacred geometry as well. And just by allowing yourself to take this time to create it visually, you feel one and whole with what's inside, what's outside, and whatever you want to fill your geometry with. It's your own will, your own creation. It's in your hand. You're the creator of that. So as we go along, we're coloring, we start seeing, and then notice, because for me, we have started with the core, we have started with the grounding, the presence of what's in the center, what holds and feels grounding. If you feel like you want to start outside, is what is actually holding you at the moment, the outside world. So where you start is important, because if you start from the outside, you can go from the outside into the core, connecting to yourself. I start today from the inside, connecting on the center, what's inside, and then from the inside, create the outside. So if you remember, as we've started, the middle center is you. The first circle is your container, your world, and as we have expanded outside, it is everything that is around you as the first point of expansion. So the first point of extension is basically what goes outside the frame. And as you recall, we have started with 4 direction as our navigation part of where we live. And then the same way we go from expanding into the further. So I would like you to do everything in repetitive motion. So if you started from one paddle, you continue all of them. If you've started the from one form, one shape, you continue to do the same around. So that completion of the cycle, as everything you come to, completion of the cycle in sacred geometry is important. It is grounding for you. This is a practice that we do today. It's all about grounding. So as you've started the petals, you continue with the petals. If you started with another shape, you continue doing the other shape all across. So you don't jump from different shapes. The practice is about creating a cycle of the pattern, and as you do that, as you color that pattern in, your brain has the capacity to remember it and see it beyond. So as you've completed the center, now you can look outside, you can look into the expansion and see what is in that expansion currently talks to you differently as you have created this center. So as you can see, as we've created this center, everything else starts evolving around it. So what is that we're going to continue with? And connect firstly how you feel. What are the colors that come up for you in that center that will be supported from the outside? So for me at the moment, as soon as I looked at the center, the green, for some reason, from subconscious mind comes up to support my center. So, and then I am choosing the pattern that I want to continue with the green, and I'm choosing this small pattern here. So same, you go from one, and then you continue it repetitively in a clockwise uh, uh, movement on filling up the same pattern around. So you can see, so I'm starting from the top, and clockwise I'm filling up the same pattern with the same color. Again, if you're using pencils, that would be much faster than watercolors. So if you're using markers, just enjoy the process of filling it up. There's no need to be perfect. It doesn't have to be ideal. This is the activation part. And as I'm creating this outside expansion feeling with the color activation, just notice how you feel. How does this flower for you start looking differently? How does it evolve? What is the expansion that you are creating from outside makes difference? So for me, it feels alive. It feels like now it belongs to the outside. There's something for me that evoke this feeling from subconscious of feeling of belonging, being part of the external. And as we go around the clock, filling up the same patterns, it feels easier, it feels more familiar. And with completing of the cycle, I feel gratitude. I feel like the first round has been created. It feels beautiful. It feels really supported now. My flower feels really supported with that. So now we go beyond and see intuitively where does it guide you to go further. What color comes up for you for this. Again, don't think of what colors work together. That's the common thing people start at this part of the process. They start seeing, okay, so this color works better with that. So we're going away from it. We're going from our feeling of what we want to bring in. The colors don't need to work together. It's what activates you, your existence, what is currently needed in your body from subconscious mind. You will see the color that needs to come up. Mix it up. That's why I like watercolors, because the color comes up is exactly what I need. It's not set colors for me, but for more grounding you can have set colors. So same way I have selected, I've just mixed this color without any perception of what colors work together. This is your personal blueprint. This is your personal activation part. It's not about what looks beautiful. What's about what color vibration activates your insight through your brain remembrance, through your color vibration activation. What color needs to come through for your own blueprint creation. And again, notice the feeling that you have as you filling up. There could be some tension in your body. It could be any other physical reflection. Just notice that as your body somatically will start recognizing subconsciously things that are hold, and we allow our cognitive mind, our analytical brain, just to relax and switch off, as it's all controlled and it's all guided. There's no need to navigate anything. It's just repetitive pattern that goes around in a circular rhythmic motion, round the clock, motion, and all you need is here is just to feel your breath. You feel your body, and then noticing what arises as you go around the clock, and repeating the same pattern over by just coloring. So as we've completed this next round, you could feel how you have already achieved so much of activating. And now we're moving into the next cycle. As we expand further, you can allow yourself to use any other color that feels present for you. Mix them up, or find the right pencil or marker that represents the color that feels right for you. And then we'll go for another round. And again, don't forget that it has to be intuitive. There's no need for any explanation. The more connected you feel to your intuition and just guided, the more you allow yourself to release all those patterns that have been before, all those frameworks, as you allow your brain just to breathe with no expectations, no need to perform, make anything perfect. Allow yourself to live into this blueprint of creation in your own capacity to create. There's no one telling you what to do, how to do it, just your own framework, and you filling it up with colors that you like, allowing yourself to explore and be curious and experiment. As your life is all about experience, this is your way to practice your life in a safe container, in your own movement, in your own color activation. So same, we go around the circle. So now it feels familiar. So now the more you do it, you can start recognizing this pattern. You feel familiar, and that's what happens in life. And that's how we create these patterns. We feel familiar with something. We feel that we have been through this story before. We know what to do, how to react. But at the same time, that's how our survival instinct works. They have survived something, and then every time something similar happens, not the same story, but similar reaction of your body, the body responds into creating the same pattern and following all over again. And that's why it is such a big process of in your life to recognize the patterns, recognize where you're repeating the same cycle. A lot of people come to me and saying, I've done everything, I've done all the practices, psychologists, but I'm still doing the same thing every time it comes in. I'm doing exactly the same, and even if I've done so much work on my brain, talk therapy, I still complete the same pattern and follow. Even that I know about it, I still do the same. So the first thing in this practice is recognition of the pattern. So as soon as you start recognizing, understanding the patterns begins with understanding the body, because your body responds first. Your nervous system was not designed primarily for happiness. It was designed to survive, and survival depends on the prediction. So the more prediction you have, which is currently is our safe container. So please go along and fill up your cup, your beautiful flower, with the way you want to fill it up and complete. So the body constantly scans the environment and looking on how to survive through this world. And that's why the patterns are there that created by our nervous system as this container is the cues for safety, because it's repetitive, so it feels safe. And it compares the present moment with past experience and activates the most familiar response. So same as we have created this pattern, our body started remembering the most familiar response. And this is brilliantly adaptive system, but it means that much of what you feel and do is driven not by what you actually want and not what actually happens, but what happened before. So and the action, the thought and the feeling are patterns. So first of all, you think and you action, and then you start feeling, and they're not choices that you make with your cognitive brain. They're responses of your amygdala brain, of your primal brain, and the cognitive comes later. So when we're doing this practice, we are getting ourselves into safe mode, and this powerful and common thing that patterns are not something to fix or overcome. They're not here to be fixed and change them. They're here to be recognized. And an adult who learned to overperform in a critical environment is something that will change the pattern later. So that's why this practice about being present with what comes in, these patterns made sense for you for so long and they feel secure and safe. They were responses to real conditions in your life. And by recognizing them, by practicing this sacred geometry, allowing yourself to train your brain to see these patterns coming in and feel safe when they come in. So there's no survival instincts that kicks in. This is the layer which we're uncovering here. And that's why the sacred geometry work is such a big part of grounding emotional, cognitive, rational, and then somatic way of thinking. Many people understand their patterns intellectually. They can name them, they can analyze them, they can trace them, they can understand where they're coming from, but yet they're not able to change it. And this one is the most frustrating experience in your life, when you know your pattern, and it happens because patterns are not primarily cognitive. They're lived experiences. They live in the nervous system and emotional memory and the body itself at level that analysis simply cannot reach. And to shift the pattern that lives in the body, you must engage it at the level where it lives. The pattern must be experienced, not just through understanding, but how it feels, expressed, witnessed, and gently transform it later. This is where we create this pattern as sacred geometry. This is where we create something that feels safe, feels contained, and regulated, and then that will help you to start recognizing these sacred geometry patterns in your life. So that's why working with sacred geometry regulates the nervous system through focused, repetitive movement that we've just made. Engage your brain and then integrate it. So the flower of life, which we've created today, is that beautiful form that is fundamental for architecture of creation, and drawing it connects you to the understanding of yourself better. So as we have completed this um, beautiful creation that contains whatever is you holding today, just use it as your navigating tool, as something that can keep you calm. And color in this is not a static decoration, it is the vibration that works through you because you've chosen it intuitively. And I would really want you to sit with that and meditate on it if you can, or just be present with that, and use it as your navigation tool of where you want to be. So we'll close today with a simple tapping exercise for grounding, by allowing yourself to step back into the body and ground yourself. And what we're going to do is we're going to open your chest fully and take a deep breath in, and then breathe out and hug yourself and just tap and come back to your body, feeling grateful, feeling connected. And I would like you to give me feedback of how does it feel for you doing the sacred geometry. What questions do you have about the pattern recognition? What questions do you have about understanding how sacred geometry works in pattern recognition? And the grounding effect on what is important for you. Where is your ground today? What are the colors that you feel that is grounding for you? And how those petals, how those patterns that you've created around just could be used as very navigating, very regulating way of seeing yourself. So when you can just jump into sacred geometry and go into that meditation and just use this shape that we've created at the start for expansion, for grounding, for navigating yourself. Thank you. And if you have any more questions, please reach out, post comments, and follow Active Creative. We have this beautiful new term starting where we're going to explore modalities as kintsugi art, as blindfold drawing, and then the modalities that we're going to explore extends your perception of yourself, understanding of yourself as navigation tool of how to map out where you're going, your direction through understanding yourself better. So yes, please reach out, and I'm Valerie, and let me know if you need anything further to extend on this knowledge. Thank you.